A room with a view of the whole city. Fashion luxury, that's what he's got pretty.
I flew with British Airways in the new first class and was travelling from JFK to London Heathrow. The first class check-in is shared at JFK Airport with American Airlines and boss British Airways. This is a joint agreement that they have made with each other. The same system is also Chesney Place in London. And if, for example, you are now as British Airways first class guests, arriving there at the airport in JFK, New York, you think, my goodness, they do make a good first impression visually. Meaning, everything looks nice, but it only looks nice. Unfortunately, the reality is different. Let's get to the details. I arrived there, and I asked where the first-class check-in for British Airways guests is located. Yes, you can go right in here. Wonderful, I thought. This is going to be quick and easy. And yes, then I was already inside, and then I entered, and then there was actually a line. I thought, we're in the first-class segment. How can there be a line here? Well, it took about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I finally understood how this system of British Airways first-class check-in with American Airlines first-class check-in works, namely as follows. There are a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 first-class counters, of which only 2 are intended for British Airways. The other ladies and gentlemen sitting at these other counters, 2 of them are not occupied at all. The other 4 from American Airlines simply have nothing to do at that time. So why should they even make an effort to be helpful for us first-class guests? That means they sit and chat. That's the reality. And the other 2 who are working for British Airways are also American Airlines employees. And they are there, completely relaxed in this American indifference, making their check-in area the same for all guests. That means whether here also economy class guest is being processed or a first class guest, it doesn't matter at all to the ladies who were working there that day. And why do I say this so clearly? And actually not clearly enough. Because I'm trying to hold back charmingly, otherwise I would have to lose it. From such extremely poor quality in a first-class segment, that I say it can't be true. It was already fundamentally difficult to fly from London to America in the first-class service area on the ground. But that it could get even worse from America, I wouldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams, because I thought, if you already have such a flashy, beautiful first-class area, then maybe there could also be good employees there. No such luck. These employees who were employed there, I would say one of them, the older lady, was certainly a true Brit who has been working here in America for a very long time. And the other was a typical American unionized employee who didn't care at all how long it took, and if things didn't progress, well, that's not my problem. Do you know something like that? I have to say, when it comes to America, that is the United States, USA, it's a service desert of the finest kind. What you can experience here, you wouldn't be able to imagine in your wildest dreams. Unfortunately, when I didn't get the older lady, but instead the American Airlines employee who already had a sour expression because, well, we as guests weren't exactly beaming either. We approached her, and since we had already been waiting there for a quarter of an hour, she could obviously tell from our side as guests that we weren't exactly very happy. So she handled it completely. I would say, emotionlessly. Good day, here you go, ID. Check in. Here is your ticket. Goodbye. This cold indifference, this unfriendly demeanor is really unbearable. And since I come from Germany, I clearly and distinctly conveyed this to her, and told her that personally as well. Dear madam, your service is the worst I have ever experienced in a first-class product. And I do not wish you a good day. You won't believe it. This employee simply turned to the next guest behind me, motionless and emotionless, and did just that. She didn't care at all. Such hardened employees do not belong in a first class. The claim that better staff cannot be found is beyond my comprehension. And it is an outrage towards us good guests who pay a lot of money for a first-class ticket to be treated in such a manner that I, of course, and it is simply appropriate, also filed a complaint with British Airways and American Airlines. I sent it because it is necessary for such employees to be appropriately addressed. The problem with this whole situation was that there were already many more guests behind me who all wanted to check in, and then I left and only realized later that my ticket didn't have my TSA pre-check on it. Because you need to know the following. When you exit the first-class segment of American Airlines and British Airways, the security area begins, and if you come out directly, it's TSA pre-check. Otherwise, even as a first-class guest, if you don't have TSA pre-check or global entry, you have to walk all the way to the left where hundreds, thousands of passengers in the normal area, like economy, business, etc., are all gathered together and then directed to security. This means you easily wait here for another hour. It is, if you will, the fake first-class check-in altogether. Because if you compare it, for example, with Frustanza, there is a very special area in the first-class terminal. You check in there personally, you are driven to the plane in a car, and you don't have to stand in any lines. That is service. But what British Airways offers here in combination and collaboration with American Airlines is abysmal. This is nightmare service. Not even worthy of the word service. I noticed thousands of people to my left. A line with TSE that moves relatively quickly, maybe 30 people. I look at my ticket and the lady says, yes, you still need to register your TSE. So I was forced to go back, as if fate was being unkind to me that day. But it still meant well. I went back, and of course I didn't go to that unfriendly or British Airways American Airlines employee, but instead I went to this slightly older lady and said, could you take a quick look? Boss, I'm missing the TSA. Then she briefly looked at the computer and printed out a new ticket for me. I was done in a minute, ready to go through the TSA pre-area, the security, and was within the security zones in 3 or 4 minutes. I tell you, this nightmare, American Airlines, British Airways service, first-class check-in on the ground at JFK is truly one of the worst service facilities these airlines have. Since this is a combination, I conclude that American Airlines also provides poor service here. And it is the same for all other guests who are there. For me, it was an absolute nightmare. I found it outrageous how we were treated here, and that this service is abysmally bad. At JFK Airport in New York. And I hope that I never have to go through this, ordeal again in my life. And that's why this first-class check-in from British Airways gets both thumbs down.